All right, so then the next thing that opportunity to submit documents is actually when NIH requests them. And I'm going to go back. So we're talking now about just in time. And when does this happen? It's the next layer down. So here was our proposal due date, right? And then we had our scientific merit. We had to get our post-submission in before that. Now we're down to advisory council. What this means is this is when they're actually deciding what to fund. So the scientific merit gave a score to the application. And then if it's scored in what you call the fundable range, the advisory council gets together. They look at that NIH Institute's overall budget. They look at the scores of the different awards of applications that have been considered, and then they pick ones that they're going to recommend to get funded. And those ones that they recommend go through a just-in-time request process so that they can request additional administrative information and scientific information prior to actually issuing the award. And this has got a really tight turnaround. These are usually 5 to 7 business days. That's usually all you get in order to do the just-in-time submission. There are typically about 4 components, and I'm going to talk a lot more about other support, but we'll get through the components. Other support for the PIs and the COIs, anybody who's named as key personnel. And those are this is the area where we can help. That's why I'm going to circle back and talk about it more. This is the research administrator's role in the just-in-time process. NIH also asks for those approved protocols, and that's got to be handled by the PI. That's not something we don't have the scientific background to do. The certification of human subjects training. You may remember that Nancy asked Aaron Romer and Sarah Dottie about this on Monday. It really is something that resides at RMG. They are the ones that generate the list. So the RPM will generate that list. If somebody's non-compliant, the RPM will come to you and say, can you work with this investigator to get their training completed? And so you help the investigator find where to do the training and answer any questions they have, but you can't generate this list. The certification list comes from RPM. And then there might be some other customized requests when the NIH reviews. They may request a rebudget. They may request, I had a just-in-time request a few months ago where they asked for a revised biohazards section. They didn't like the one that went in with the proposal. They asked for a new one, so the PI had to prepare it. Again, those go to the PI. So there's a lot of detailed guidance. The NIH has NIH just-in-time guidelines, extensive information on the just-in-time procedures in their grants policy statement. It says all the same things I just said about other support, and then certification of IRB, et cetera, et cetera. And then RMG, if you go to Stanford RMG just-in-time, should come up. Yeah, RMG has a whole page on this as well. And they give you a lot of advice on what goes into it. And then they have detailed deep dives into each of these different protocol approvals. So lots of reference information there. And then the RAC, we have our training materials, pre-award management, we have just-in-time requests here. But you can see that our just-in-time folder, because we're research administrators, we're dominating our coverage on other support. So I have an overview document here, and it really does take you from the very high level of what is in an other support document. So what you would do as a research administrator is you would help your PI prepare for their own, and then you would look at the budget and request the co-investigator other support from those investigators and their research administrators. So what is it? What is other support? It's summary information of the individual's financial resources in support of the research endeavors. NIH primarily requests it for just-in-time, what we're talking about here, and progress reports. And there are 6 potential sections, so I've delineated those here so that you know what they are and when they're required. So active support in all instances, that's all active grants. Pending support, that's for just-in-time requests only. They want to know what other pending proposals are out there and if there's any overlap with the one that they're proposing to fund now. Inactive, you don't need to do for just-in-time. That's only for progress reports, research project progress report, RPPR. In kind, this is something that RMG just started requiring. I just saw this last month. You do need to address this section in the other support, and even if it's just to say none. These are resources such as office or laboratory space that's supported by an outside source, but it's not listed specifically for this project. If it's specifically for this project, it's already in equipment or facilities. So most of the time, your equipment or facilities is going to cover this. So you probably don't need to put something in here, but you should, ask the question of your PI. And then overlap, this is any scientific, budgetary, or effort commitment overlap. that would occur if the current proposal was approved. And then if so, state how it's resolved. And it's totally possible to have an overlap and state it and resolve it. It's okay. You don't have to find a way to say none. Just tell the truth. This is, I had an award that was funded recently that the award, the just-in-time request had 3 aims, and the investigator had one grant that had one of the 3 aims overlapping. And so we described how we were going to resolve the overlap with that one aim. And we actually worked with the other sponsor, and both awards were able to move forward and be funded. So it's totally possible to resolve it. We just need to address the overlap and describe how it's going to be resolved. And then you do have to put in a foreign and domestic resources section. That would include any financial support that is not directly paid for by the lab, or any foreign resources such as a lab overseas or an award overseas. Lots of details obviously here. You can check back on those later. And then what goes into the other support, and I'll show you this in actually how it looks, but here's the 8 items that go into the other support. Now you'll notice I've got new and old, because just like the BioSketch, there is a new version that's going to take effect in January 25th of 2022. And there's one that I'm calling old, which is actually in use now. Both are accepted right now by NIH, but beginning in January, only the new will be accepted. So heads up, the homework assignment for today is to create an old format other support. So that's why I'm going over this, because this is the kind of thing that you'll need to learn how to generate to support your PI to get this award. So I want to show you what it looks like so you can see the components in the old format. We're going to stick to the old format because that's what's most in circulation right now, and it's a little easier to understand. It'll make that new format support look a lot less intimidating once you understand this one. So what do we have? We have those same sections I talked about: active, pending, foreign and domestic resources, in-kind, and overlap. They're all here. For the active and pending, you can see the grant number, the PI name, the dates of the project, the effort, the calendar in calendar months of how much effort they're devoting. Who's the sponsor? It's NIH, National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute. And then this number is the direct cost budget for the current year. And then this is the title of the grant. And then these are the major goals. So, we talked earlier about how in SARA, there are certain things you can access, whether or not you have access to specific orgs and specific projects. In SARA, you can still see the reports. So if you've got a SUNET ID, you can go into SARA, sara.stanford.edu, and you can click on other support NIH format. And it's going to give you a starting point. We always emphasize this in the RAC. This is not your final, just pop this and send it over to NIH. It's not going to work that way, because there's going to have to be changes made to it. But this is a great starting point. So I'm going to pick Catherine Blish, since we all did budgets for Catherine for the session 3 homework assignment. So Catherine Blish, you can see here, here's again, organized the same way: active, pending, and it's got her, all the same info, and it's kind of small to see. I'll try to make it a little bigger. You can see the grant number, the PI, the sponsor, the title, the goals, and then over here, the project and the budget. So I can click download on this, but what you'll see when I do that, it doesn't look as good as that sample, the sample that you see now, and then look at what comes out of SARA. Not quite the same. One of the big problems is it's in this kind of funky table format. So I usually just grab this and then put it out into a Word document and then make it look like the sample. The other thing is, these calendar months effort are based on what was proposed in the proposal. And as we all know, effort can change over time. And what's actually in the system charging right now is what we need to be reporting. So again, we've got, the grant number is not going to change. The funder is not going to change, but the effort needs to be verified, and then the dollar amounts of the budget also need to be verified, because again, we could be in year 3 or year 4. There might have been a rebudget request by the sponsor between the time of the proposal and the time of the award, so we want to get all those details accurate. The other thing is, so you revise all of this and always send it to the PI for review, because you can find things out that way. I did another support for a PI last year, and I had an award listed as pending, and he said, oh, that's been active for 3 months. It's at another university. but they just haven't contacted us yet to set up the subaward. And I'm like, oh, that's really great news. And we really need to get that set up here, and we need to move that to active so that we're communicating consistently to NIH that, yes, you are working on this, just as your collaborator at Baylor has been reporting that you've been working on it. So always important to keep that line of communication open with the PI, prepare that other support, and then go to them and get their feedback on what's pending. The other thing they'll tell you is, oh, that award didn't get funded, that one didn't get funded, and that can be kind of a sad conversation. But still, it's useful to be informed and have that information. So in our training materials, when you get your homework assignment, you can go in here, you can see the sample, you can see the blank format page, and then also for your reference, you can see the new format other support and what it looks like. This is what's coming into play in January of 2022. You can see it's a lot more extensive. So it has a lot of the same components, but it has additional lines like status of support, active, primary place of performance. We never had to put that before. And then the person months chart, check it out. You have to do this year and all future years of the grant. So this grant goes through 2026. So we have to put 5 years worth of effort on here. And of course, this is our estimate. This is what we believe will happen right now. So you can see that it goes on pending, in kind, all the same. Overlap is here. And then they actually have to sign it. I, the PI, certify the statements herein are true. So you actually have to get the PI signature on this other support, which is another thing that's different about this format. So lots of reference information. Online and in the training materials, go out and check it out. Lots to do there to really, you can see how us spending time on this is really helping the PI, because this is a detailed document and takes a lot of tracking.